Okay, very good afternoon, everyone. Good afternoon. Namaste. And firstly, it's just very my honor just to be at this wonderful Congress. And I actually just flew from very cold winter, the Tokyo, Japan. And I'm very happy actually to be under this such a very warm and mild weather here in Chennai. Okay, so today I would like to just talk a little bit about the what we call MFCA, the material flow cost accounting. And our key theme for this Congress is the cost management. So I mainly focusing on the so what kind of benefit you can get from this idea or principle or thinking to actually further reduce your costs. As well as increasing your environmental performance. And this morning, I was very impressed with one of the remarks by Mr. Bali from Volvo about the concept of the sustainability. So the sustainability is not something that we really feel that like we are forced to do that. But actually, that's one of the actually very big business opportunities or some approaches that actually could potentially increase your profits and also enhance your company's performance. So this MFCA is actually one of the key and also practical methodologies, and that has been actually proven in many industries. And also, at this time, I would like to just introduce the very brief case examples that has been achieved by the very strong support from CII, as well as the unitors. So today's my sessions. I know the time is pressing, as well as this is just right after the lunch. So I just try not to make it something like makes you sleep, but just keep you fun, which means I try to make it practical and also just be very open sessions. So firstly, my introduction has been already through, and so I would like to just move to the what is this MFCA concept, and also what is the benefit, and also how it can be applied to your industries, and also what is the difference from your conventional way of the managing your companies. And also I'd like to introduce the one brief case examples from the Mercury Manufacturing, who has just achieved the tremendous, actually, the reduction of the costs, and also identification of the hidden loss, like through this MFCA. Okay, so again, just myself is actually from the consulting companies based in Tokyo, Japan. However, this is actually my almost probably 20th time since to be in India, which means I actually have a lot of interaction with many Asian countries and just try to expose what our experience in Japan to the other friends like Asian countries in terms of the sustainable methodologies. And one of the key methods that I have been actually using, and also I have been introducing, is the main topics, today's main topics, which is MFCA. Okay, so I have been repeating like this MFCA, and so what is this MFCA, and also what is the benefit? So here's some very brief answers for that. Okay. Actually, I'm from Japan. Japan is actually the origin of the continuous improvement concept, which is actually Kaizen concept. And this MFCA actually has one of the key element is this Kaizen, continuous element is there. And the other concept, which probably I can say probably the Japanese mantra, and which what we call mottainai, which is the other concept which has been increasingly popular in Japan. And it's something like what we can say, very close to the concept of Kaizen. But the mottainai is actually the wasteful, which means your waste in terms of time. It's kind of like lean thinking, but it's actually more like a kind of like mantra type of thinkings. So the MFCA actually takes this concept, what we call mottainai. That's about the wasteful the concept in it. And finally, today's main theme, which is the cost management. So MFCA has these three elements at the same time. So which means MFCA can be used as a Kaizen tools, and MFCA can be used as a mottainai, which means wasteful. Just try to make yourself more environmental friendly, And at the same time, you can use this one as a cost saving or cost planning tools. So this is the sort of the key elements that has been involved in this MFCA, the concept. Okay, so who has been implementing this MFCA? There are actually many more companies, but those companies which has been actually shown on the screens has been actually achieving a great results, which means the cost reductions and also the increasing their sustainability performance through this MFCA. And as you can see, probably one of the companies, such as Canon, is a quite famous company. It's a very large-sized company who has a very solid amount of the data, very good ERP system, and cost management system, etc. But at the same time, you may notice that there are some companies that you are not so fully aware of what they're doing. Small-sized companies, these are very typically like very small-sized companies. And they can also actually implement this MFCA ideas in a different ways, in a simple ways. And still, like they see some very tremendous benefits from these MFCA activities. So no matter which size of the industries, and no matter in terms of the manufacturing, no matter like which manufacturing industries you belong to, actually this MFCA at least gives you some hint for the data cost management, as well as the increasing environmental the performances. So currently, I would say officially it says like 300 and 400 companies, but actually there are much more companies that actually start implementing this MFCA concept. However, the standardization of this MFCA has been actually 5 years ago, and so it's still quite new concept. So which means like if you take this concept seriously and implement this in your companies, there should be some huge competitive advantage, like just to reduce your costs and to increase your competitiveness in the market. And again, like one of the impacts, I'm not going through the each details, but we have already again conducted some pilot projects in India. And the first one was actually happening like in the 2012 or 2013 timeframe. And then after this, we just almost in a completing phase of the targeting 10 companies. Those are all from like industries, manufacturing industries. And we see some at least like a very tangible cost reduction impacts from these MFCA activities. So which means, it's not only, when we say like sustainability, it's very hard to define, what we are really talking about, how you can define like, okay, we are sustainable in terms of environmental performance, in terms of your, actually the like social performance. But this MFC actually gives you a very tangible impact, how much money simply you can save, and which means how much profit you actually increase your business, the business processes after the MFCA implementations. Okay, so what is this, again, like MFCA? So let me just briefly a little bit go into the detail of the concept. Okay, so this MFCA actually comes with the 3 key elements, and definitely one is the MFCA stands for Material Flow Cost Accounting. So again, like so I just take the first words like MF and also the cost accounting CA. So definitely we handle the materials. So we always pay strong attention to the materials, and this materials is talking about the input of your materials, and it's not only whatever the key raw materials that you are handling, but all of the input materials that you handle at your businesses. That's something that what we call like materials in these terms. And we actually track the fate of your materials. So where do they go? Are they really going to the customers, or they are not really going to the customers? So when we say materials and then we say waste, the concept is actually very unclear. So we just try to be clear-cut as much as possible in terms of what is your product and also what is your non-product output, which is a material loss. And then we actually try to calculate the costs. Again, here's the cost management or costing parts, and not for your product, because everybody actually focusing on the product, But in our context, we focus on the cost for your non-product output, so that you can understand how much money you are really wasting for your actually non-value added or non-product output. So in terms of cost-wise, what we basically do is we have two categories, and one is again like what we call like product, and the other one is actually what we call like material loss. There are only like simply like two categories, and product is something that's going to the customers, and customer is willing to pay, and material loss is any other material that's not really going to be going to the customers, and it happened to be somewhere such as waste, air emissions, wastewaters, and any other ways that just have a potential impacts on the environment. And the key point here is, always we try to calculate the cost for your losses, so that you can really understand how much money you're really spending to produce, your material losses. I mean, that's the very first start point for these activities. So from my experience with the Indian companies, always like my first visit, they're just wondering what I'm talking about really, because I'm talking about the waste, and why like we have to put a price tag on the waste. But if you really feel that like okay, here's some approach that has been not really applied to your companies yet, there is always a good chance that you can identify some losses that's not really highlighted before. And this is the one way that you can actually highlight some losses and the impacts of the losses. So again, the concept-wise, we always come with the cost accounting, which is actually management accounting approach. But at the same time, everything comes with the environmental impacts, which means like positive environmental impacts. So, if you feel that like, okay, we have to do something with the environment, for example, your wastewater treatment, waste management, you always have to pay money. So if you do more and more for the environment, you have to spend more and more money. But for this process, you reduce your costs, and at the same time, you can be more environmental friendly. So the direction is really actually aligned, rather than it's just going against the environment versus your production activities. So I always use this sort of illustrations from the productivity or Kaizen approach size. So in terms of your materials or energy efficiencies terms, there are lots of things that you could potentially reduce. However, there are only two reasons. One is actually you're not really motivated to reduce, or you don't know where that loss comes from. So this MFCA actually at least tries to answer those two questions by giving you the monetary impacts and also giving you the whole pictures of your production process flow in terms of your material flows. So here's a very quick snapshot of what you're doing and also what kind of values like MFCA really gives you. So usually, typically, the way you manage your production is you have some target, and then based on that target or plannings, how much actually you produce. That's how you manage in terms of your productivities. But this MFCA actually gives you a really different angles in terms of your production approach, which means we focus simply not only your product output, but your material input. By doing that, actually, there is always some huge amount of the loss that you have not really discussed when you talk about your productivity management. And that loss actually gives you lots of the hint about, and also the chances to reduce the costs. So that's the sort of the different angles that we always discuss whenever we apply this MFCA concept. So one of the typical examples, and this is actually actual examples from one of the Japanese big companies, and their production, conventional way of their productivities was actually considered to be 99%, but it was actually, they apply MFCA, they analyze their production process, exactly same production process by MFCA, that production rate is actually down to the 68%. So which means they're actually only 1%, or there could be 32% of the chances actually that you can reduce your costs. So that's something that you can actually potentially identify from these MFCA applications. So again, there are lots of things that's being involved in this MFCA, but the simple message from this MFCA activity is you can use your own existing information. It's not something that's completely new, and you can use your accounting information. You can use your existing quality information, and there's of course, a certain amount of the data set that you may need, but it depends on what kind of data do you really have. But always, we are not going to start from scratch, but we are just doing it based on your existing practices. So this process is again it's actually Kaizen activities. So please remember there is a Kaizen concept, and there is second one is a Montainai concept, and third one is a cost accounting, cost management approaches. So this is actually the continuous improvement, and we have a very solid methodologies actually, and which what we call green Kaizen approaches. And then from there, you can just implement this MFCA for your company's internal actually the performance. So here, probably I'd like to just briefly have the one actual case studies from the Indians. And I'd like to have one case example from the mercury manufacturing. And I'd like to have Mr. Lam just to speak very briefly about what his experience about this MFCA.
Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Myself, Ram from Mercury Manufacturing Company. Let's quickly go through a small case study on what we learned and we earned from MFC. I would like to put it that way, which attracts much more attention. And basically, who are we? We are Mercury Manufacturing Company Limited, a 100% subsidiary of Godrej and Boyce. What we do? We basically offer steel storage solutions for offices, domestic application, industrial, and as well as public places. How we do? We are 100% export-oriented company, and we make to order. We don't stock anything. Every order is a new production thing for us, and we ship the products in a CKD manner to our dealers overseas. This is basically the flow model which Mr. Tachikawa explained us. It basically explains the entire production process is divided into quantity centers where major value addition is taking place. We, on our factory, we split our production process into 10 quantity centers, starting from raw material to the place where it reaches the customer. Based on this, the quantity center description and the list has been displayed, starting from blanking to the customer acceptance of the order. As we can see in the top of the slide, there is a small series of couple of boxes, which basically is the input material including the raw material as well as every other material which goes into the process. That is, other than raw material, that is the indirect material also. And through the quantity center, what goes through it, and what is the negative products, that is the waste produced, that comes below the process, and the good product goes to the next process. After constructing the flow model, it was let's have a small figures to compare. What as opposed to what we were thinking, that our press shop was a major contributor for the scrap generated in the entire process. But the numbers and the values which we gathered showed us some different perspective, saying that only 2 machines in our shop floor is producing the major quantity of the scrap, that is almost 40%, and the remaining 37 machines are just producing 35%. So instantly what we gathered was we called in even downstream people from the line, and they were explained about this concept, and they themselves came up with the Kaizens. They gave us some couple of easy solutions, Kaizens, so that we can easily reap the benefits. And coming to the as this covers till the customer acceptance, we took a case where a customer is asking for a replacement for a rejected or a damaged component which has been delivered to him. Based on going through this, a component which cost around 700 rupees during a regular manufacturing, when done for as a replacement through a regular process, but it is consuming more than time and efforts, it's almost it comes to 14,000 rupees, which was pretty big value. And we thought why we need to give opportunity to raise defects at the customer end, and we started to backtrace from where the rejects were starting. Almost as we said, going through the flow model, starting from the quantity center, first quantity center to the last quantity center, it was seen that the material which is starting at the first place, when it is rejected in the last quantity center, it's almost the value is increased by 2.5 times, which was pretty alarming. Without the knowledge of this, we were just rejecting and panels or components at the quantity center 10. So after going through this figures, and we thought of kaizens at that packing level, which is the last station before the dispatch. And there were a couple of points which were thrown from there also. Some simple steps which helped in reaping very big benefits in the numbers. So that's it, sir. That's for the case study. Back to Tachikawa. Thank you.
Okay, and also the again, like okay, thank you very much for the quick case examples. So basically, like this is just an interim result, but this is the project by the UNIDO as well as the CII and myself is actually has been showing the very tangible results for the beverage as well as the machining, light engineering industries. But again, like if you don't really handle the materials such as banking or financials, I mean, it cannot be like typically applied so much. But if you are really in the production or manufacturing parts, this MFCA really has a very good chance that that actually enhances your performance in the business as well as the sustainability the field. Okay, so finally, again, like, I'd like to just emphasize one more time that the MFCA has a great potentials, and it could assist actually in terms of the company's performance, in terms of productivities, in terms of the environmental as well as materials, and which leads to the better the cost savings. And also we are very happy to support in many ways, and I hope like this is going to be helpful for you your future business performances. Thank you very much.